welcome back to episode 38 of the Snatch Chat podcast. As always, we have got a bunch of questions to run through. We're going to be talking about programming, coaching, mindset, etc. But before we get into that, a couple of weeks ago I had a question about something about when's the right time to start. And I was like, there was never a right time to start. But then it was roughly at the same sort of time, just before the fundraiser. And I had this idea of like, oh, you know what? I probably should look at documenting the journey of building the Oates Performance Lab and building a weightlifting community. Because that's what it's literally all about. It's just building this community, having a community of like-minded people that all sort of train together, have the one goal of just improving the best they can, lifting the most that they can, without necessarily having to live in the gym. And I wanted to sort of like document the journey of raising the money, getting the floor in, setting up the club, getting the equipment, going out into like the local area, working with charities, working with schools, building this community that I've always sort of like dreamt of having. I used to swim, used to do CrossFit, both of which had really, really good communities. Looking at the swimming community, we all, yes, it's an individual sport, but we all have the same goal of bettering ourselves, getting to that next competition. You know, you literally all just sort of, train together, cheer each other on. It's like, it's brilliant. And then you go into CrossFit and it's exactly the same. And that's probably what sort of like hooked me to CrossFit, is how much of a community it is. Then you sort of like go to into weightlifting, and very much for the most part, a lot of people train on their own, headphones in, don't sort of talk. It's an individual sport, but it's very much trained as an individual sport. Unless you go to like a weightlifting club. But the only thing is, with the majority of weightlifting clubs, it's very much like generalised program, everyone does the same thing. But the limiting factor to that is that not everyone has the same areas that they need to work on. Some people are going to progress well, other people aren't. And that's a bit like, I want this community, but I also want to have something where people have a program that is specific to them, but they can still, train together. And that's where we are right now. We've got small group sessions based in Birmingham, based at the Oates Performance Lab. I still coach online, one-to-one, so it's very much customised. And I want to try and merge them together to actually build this community. And just filmed episode 1 of this documentary journey, so to speak. And I go into a little bit more sort of detail about it and the plans that we've got, etc. And then episode 2, which releases, I actually filmed that first, but we won't talk about that. But that basically goes into the day, raising the money, and everything that we sort of done. So, this is going to be a awesome journey over these next months/years. Episode 1 is released. I've added it in the link below. Go listen and join us. And make sure to subscribe. But anyways, let's get into these questions, because we've got a few to get through. Okay, so question number 1. I've been following the same program I have found online for 5 months. My totals have barely moved. How do I know if the problem is the program or me? And what would actually change if I switch to a coached approach? So, you've basically just said it here, is that obviously your program is not specific to you as an individual. It's something that you've brought offline, probably sort of fitted how many days you wanted to train, and it had like a certain length to it. There's nothing wrong with that, but you've got this generalised approach. Now, I actually put this down in an email last week, or when you listen to it, it will be last week, but it was released today, Monday. So if you're on the email list, you've probably read this, but everything, you'll get a lot of programs online that basically say, it's 12 weeks, 4 days a week, guaranteed to do this. Yes, for about 1% of the population that actually end up doing that program. And that's because if you end up catching power snatch, you end up power snatching more than you can snatch. And all of a sudden your program is power snatch after power snatch and it's generating force. That's actually detrimental to what you need to work on. It's strengthening your weakness, okay? Really what you want to try and do instead of power snatches is just constantly hit that bottom position. Snatches into overhead squats, hang snatches, everything that is forcing you into that bottom position, into your weakest area to make it a strength. It might well be that you are, you're lacking stability in the jerk, and all of a sudden now we're doing push jerks rather than just nailing the foot position for the split jerk. So it doesn't highlight your weaknesses and drill those weaknesses. So yes, okay, you might start to see a little bit of progress, but you're probably going to end up getting stuck using that system. The coached approach, if you get a good coach, is that you won't follow that. What they'll do is pinpoint your strengths, your weaknesses, the areas that are going to move you or move the needle forward so you actually start making progress. Everything is going to become specific to you. So, if you are catching snatches high and then riding them down and your power snatch is higher than your snatch, you won't be doing power snatches, you'll be doing everything that I previously said, like hang snatches and highlighting that weakness to actually make that weakness into a strength. So there's less of a chance of you hitting that plateau because everything is specific to your weaknesses. You're making those weaknesses stronger, they're building those weaknesses up, or strengthening those weaknesses, only going to then project you forwards. So the approach that you've got right now, which is following a program, is right. You've got some sort of consistency and some direction, but not necessarily that direction is the most direct route. You've probably got a scenic route, so you're probably going to get little wins here and there, but not a guaranteed result like you would with a coach working on your specific weaknesses. So that's what I would say. So if you get a coach, make sure that it's a coach that is going to work with you one-on-one, these areas to build your program, and it's not someone that's going, yeah, I've got a team program and this is the program, because then you're going to end up getting into that same routine. Question number 2. I keep catching the bar too far forwards with my elbows dropping. I cannot keep the bar in the rack position of the clean. What is actually causing this? So if the bar is reaching, or you're getting it into the front rack and those elbows are down, you're missing your shoulders and you're losing the bar forwards, first thing to look at is how tight are you holding that bar. Like once you reach extension in that clean, you are almost thinking about letting go of the bar. Ideally, when you hook grip, you are resting 2 fingers on top of the thumb, but the thumb is doing the work. It's not about gripping, it's not about the tightness of that grip. So if you're correctly hook gripping that bar, you should find as you extend and hit that drop, you can fluidly move around it. So first thing to look at is, what is your grip position like? One thing to think about is that you've got an enemy in front of you. Can you drive those elbows super high? Can we get those elbows fluidly moving forwards? But that's the one thing that you'd look at first. Second thing to look at is the approach into extension. Are you smashing the bar off the thighs and you've got space between you and the bar as you reach extension? The issue is if you've got space between you and the bar, as you hit that bottom position, you're going to get the bar on the lower part of the shoulders. It's going to make the elbows a lot harder to transition upwards. What we want to try and do when we hit the bottom of a clean is get that bar right into our neck. So the one exercise that I drill for a lot of people at the start of their program, or when they first start to work with me, are zombie squats, because that forces you to get that bar right against your throat. So it teaches you the mechanics of getting that bar right on top of that shelf, not catching it down here. The zombie squat is exactly the same movement that you want to hit in your front squat. That bar wants to sit right on top of the shelf, not on the bottom of the shoulders, because then the elbow is going to be really hard to get through. So the only difference from a zombie squat and a front squat is that your arms are there for support. But if at any point in a front squat I told you to let go of the bar, that bar should still stay on the shoulders. So we now know that a clean is basically a zombie squat. When you go, so your front squat is basically a zombie squat. But when you go for your full clean, you want to still reenact that exact same position in the clean. Getting the bar on top of the shoulders so you can get those elbows nice and high. And to do that, we need to make sure that bar is staying super close to our body. So I'm actively pushing that bar into me as I hit my extension, or as I hit a vertical jump. What I don't want to try and do is smash the bar off me, creating space between me and that bar. Push the bar in, almost treat it like a vertical jump. So the one thing that I would look at doing as an exercise is a high hang clean. Vertical dip and jump, there's no way of it coming away from us, and just working on throwing that bar into our throat so you can get those elbows nice and high. Once that starts to click, then move into the hang clean. Paint the thighs, still execute that vertical jump, get it against the throat, and then start to bridge it down into your full clean. But you've still got to keep the biomechanics of the zombie squat. Can you see how everything's linked? Literally, once you start to see these linking notes, everything starts to just be a little bit clearer in your head. And it's the same for a lot of the Olympic lifts. As soon as you start to see these links and knock-on effects from working certain areas, it's a lot easier to understand. Right, next question. I compare myself to other people at the gym, and it is genuinely demotivating. They started at the same time as me, but they seem so much further ahead. How do I stop comparing and start focusing on what I can control? The thing is, it's hard, and comparing yourself is not always a bad thing. And I say that gently. What I'm not saying is compare yourself. Like, go out there and compare yourself day in and day out to everybody and get yourself down. You want to compare yourself because there's an element of, like, by comparison, it almost gives you that fuel to sort of better yourself. What you're not doing is going, so much better than me, I'm really shit, I'm not making anywhere near as much progress as they are, and that's the issue. You want to almost go, yeah, okay, they're doing really well. What are they doing differently to what I am doing? What can I learn from how they're moving compared to how I'm currently moving? Is there any sort of take-home notes? And yeah, that's what I would do. And I think the one thing, again, is by having a coach and working with somebody, you gain that extra layer of confidence and belief in your program. And that belief in your program, knowing the things that you are doing is working the exact areas that you need to work, there's probably less of a chance of comparing. But if they're progressing more than you are progressing, and that everyone progresses at different rates, you know, and it is hard. It is hard. Everyone's built differently, everyone's on different journeys. Are they training more than you are? Have they just got more ability to sort of train? Have you got mobility constraints that they haven't? There's so many areas. And you've got to enjoy the journey, you've got to enjoy the process, and all these things that are going around you are going to disturb that process if you don't focus on that road. Yeah, I think that's the thing. And I think working with a coach, and not just saying that because I am a coach, but what I've seen from past experience is by just having that clarity and understanding of what is holding them back, what are they doing to actually move the needle, and what as the coach, what have I done to put in place for them to start to see progress? If they can start to see that, there's always that higher motivation, less demotivated, because now they know that, okay, if I keep on doing this, this is where I'm going to get. Okay, look, I can see these little improvements, and that's what you really want to try and focus on. And yeah, it's all about enjoying the journey and focusing on your own progress and using these external factors as sort of like, that's awesome, wish that was me, but I know I can get there if I carry on following this program because I've already seen little snippets of gold. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Right, next question. I am nervous about trying a coached program because I worry I am not good enough yet. Should I work on my technique independently first, or is that actually the wrong way around? You know what, I think sometimes that's only more detrimental to your journey. What's the worst thing that can happen with a coach? A coach is going to look at your technique and tell you the areas that you need to work on. If you just go, yeah, I'm going to work on my technique, is it correct? Are you actually going to work on your technique, or are you just going to piss in the wind and do things that you've seen on Instagram and YouTube and you've seen other people do and go, yeah, I'm going to do exactly the same? A coached approach is going to be specific to you as an individual. So it's going to cut the shit, cut the sort of wishy-washy, might be doing this right, might be doing this wrong, and just have a complete structure. Surely structure is what you are asking for here. If you want a coached program, you are probably looking for structure. There's never a right time to get that structure. The right time is now. The right time is yesterday, but the best time is now. Get that program, work with a coach, they give you feedback, they put the program together that's specific to you as an individual. There's no reason you're not going to start to see progress. Right, next question. What is the first thing you look at when a new athlete comes in for a coach session? What do you assess in the first 30 minutes, and what does it tell you? So what I assess as an individual is exactly what I put together in the OptiPass. I'm going to take a seat, so I'm going to come down. But basically, the OptiPass is a trial that goes over the exact things that I would assess with anybody that I work with. We are looking at the foundations first. It doesn't matter who comes into that room, but the assessment starts from the warm-up. We do mobility as a group, if you're in the group settings. As a one-to-one, I'm taking you through a mobility warm-up. I'm looking at your thoracic extension, I'm looking at your hip mobility, your lat mobility, by doing different stretches. I'm already assessing your mobility to see where your mobility constraints are lying. Then we go straight into snatches. I always start with snatches, it's just how it goes. Snatches is the first exercise, in the first movement in a competition. We start with snatches. Super basic. I don't care if you come to me after training for 2 years, whether you're a complete beginner, whether you are a seasoned pro. I want to see how the foundations move. How do you press that bar overhead? How do you control into an overhead squat? And how do you drop under that bar with speed and confidence? Then from there, we layer it up. And everyone's journey is going to be slightly different. Some people are going to be stuck in that high hang because I've already found out that their vertical dip and drive is off, and that is the limiting factor. And then we work down the chain. We look at the hangs, we look at the full lift. And I am looking for the biggest area that needs development. From there then, we put the program together. And we do exactly the same for the cleans and exactly the same for the split jerk. So I always break the 3 movements down, because just by working the clean and jerk, we always have a higher focus on the clean and we leave the jerk to die. But if we work all 3 movements as an individual, we make sure everything progresses up at once, and we can just highlight the exact issue within each of those movements. Then we look at your static strength, we look at squatting, we look at pressing, we look at hinging, to see whether something in our strength system is lagging behind and preventing the progressions in those Olympic lifts. And then with all that information, we use it to create your mobility warm-ups, your cool downs, we work on your technical areas for development, and we start to build out your program. This can obviously be done in person down at the lab. We're based in Birmingham Digbeth. It's currently on right now. As soon as this, I added a link below, but at the end of August it is off, so obviously you won't be able to get it. Even if you are online, you can still access this. I'm still working with people doing this online as well. So I've added the link. If you are interested, use it, get signed up, let's start working together, let's pinpoint the exact areas that are holding you back, and then we can go from there. Next question. My grip keeps slipping in the snatch on heavy attempts, even when I chalk up. The bar moves in my hand at the top of the pull. Is this a grip technique issue or a grip strength issue? It almost sounds like a grip strength issue. Are you constantly using weightlifting straps, so as soon as you take the straps off, grip is the issue? If so, forget the grip, forget the grips, just get used to gripping that bar. The other thing, are you hook gripping? Don't just use a normal grip, thumb round, 1 to 2 fingers on top, use the hook grip. The other thing it might well be is that, you just need to have a slightly firmer grip on that bar. 3 areas to look at. But without seeing this, it's hard to sort of pinpoint. But look at your grip, and then look if you are hook gripping, adapt the hook grip so you're hooking a little bit tighter. Using straps, get rid of straps so you can work your grip strength. Start doing snatch grip deadlifts, just slightly heavier than your normal position, and just do them without straps so you actually build your forearm strength up. Don't overcomplicate it. Keep your program exactly the same. Just manipulate areas within that program to assess that issue. So I am 38 years old and I got into Olympic lifting 6 months ago. I love it completely, but I feel like I started too late. Am I wasting my time? No. There is never a right time, very similar to what I've just said above. Obviously, the earlier you get into it, the better, because there's less of a chance that you've got mobility constraints. Later on down the line, you can almost guarantee if you're an office worker, you've got tightnesses, and that's going to become the limiting factor. As you get older, you become focused on, what if this happens? If I jump underneath this bar and this bar lands on my neck, what is the thing that's going to happen? When you are younger, I started Olympic lifting when I was 18. I had absolutely zero fear whatsoever. I remember going to the gym, snatching once, literally snatched the bar, going, okay, I can snatch 60 kilos. Dropped it on my head, literally dropped it on the back of my head. Didn't even think of it. Just got straight back up, snatched it again, hit it overhead, stood it up. You have no fear. The longer you leave it, the fear, the what ifs, the anxiety of this could happen, I could injure myself, increases. That doesn't mean it's a limiting factor, really. You might become a little bit stiffer. But saying that, you can still learn the Olympic lifts, work with the coach, work on your weaknesses, and build it up. Yeah, why not? I work with a lot of people that are picking this up later in life, and they're absolutely smashing it. Looking at competition, enjoying the sport. It's nice and sort of technical, so it gives it another layer of complexity to your training. So rather than just focusing on moving weight, we're now looking at moving weight most efficiently. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's really technical. It gives training just an extra bit of buzz for me. So yeah, doesn't matter your age, just flipping get under a bar. What does a good warm-up for Olympic lifting actually look like? Mine is a few minutes on the bike and then straight into the barbell. Am I missing something important? Yeah, cool. So, a few minutes on the bike, get the heart rate pumping, no more than 5 minutes at a decent pace. You don't necessarily want to feel out of breath, but you want to sort of feel like, yeah, okay, I'm getting warmer, potentially a little bit of a sweat on. I can talk, but yeah, there is a bit of a pant in my breathing now. From there, then get into mobility. You want to work on the mobility that is limiting you. So look at hip mobility, thoracic mobility, lat mobility, shoulder mobility, ankle mobility. They're the 5 areas that you want to sort of work on. One of those 5 areas is probably going to be your weaker point. Just have a higher focus on that area. Literally maybe 5-10 minutes of mobility work and then straight onto the bar. Empty bar. So if you're doing snatches or cleans, you're going to look at the receive position, overhead, front rack. Look at how you control into the bottom, overhead squat, front squat, and then look at putting some speed into it. Drop snatch, tall clean, and basically exactly the same for the split jerk. Split jerk, strip press, take a look at where the bar is overhead, then you're going to hit some drop jerks, bar to forehead, hit the split, focus on that feet. You're going to work the very simple foundations of those movements. Nail 3 rounds of 3 to 5 reps, and then that's when you're going to start to layer it up, add the weight, start building up. So your warm-up wants to still be as structured as your program. The movements that you do in your warm-up is going to be individualized potentially. If you are finding that you constantly hit everything in a power, you don't want to do power, you want to hit that bottom position. If the limiting factor for you is getting the bar height or getting height on the bar, you might want to look at powers as you progress your warm-up, and then as you progress, it will naturally go into those full lifts. So the warm-up to start with, super generalized, then we're going to work on your mobility, or generalized cardiovascular. Now start to incorporate a little bit more specificity around your mobility, before then we get into the barbell, manipulating it to work with your weaknesses to that and actually then complement the session, and then start loading it into your working weights. Yeah, so you are missing something, mobility. Final question. What does 6 months of properly coached training actually change in an athlete? What specifically is different at the end of it? So if you've been doing 6 months working with a coach, you should see PBs, you should see plenty of PBs in your strength, in your Olympic lifts, so your consistency is getting better. But the biggest thing for me is that now you are so much more educated than you were 6 months ago. You know what to look for in your own lifts. So as you send a video to a coach, you're going to go, yeah, okay, this area is what is holding me back, thoughts. The coach is then going to back it up and give it a little bit more, give you a little bit more information, potentially cues and drills to sort of improve that area, and then you go back and forth. 6 months in, I would expect it to be very much a conversation when it comes to programming. That's how I very much run it, is that I sit down with each athlete after they've done a block of work, see what went well, see what didn't go so well, the areas that they think they need to work on, areas that I think they need to work on, and then we put the program together. And I think that's how it needs to go, is that you shouldn't be left there and in 6 months still going, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know what I need to do to make progressions. You should go, yeah, okay, this is what we're doing and these are the things that I'm working on, and when I film in my training, I'm highlighting this area, and I can give the feedback to my coach and go, this didn't work well, this went well, look at this set, this is exactly what we wanted to do, this is not what I wanted to do. The coach then gives you feedback going, okay, perfect, let's make these adaptations, these changes, or let's keep working with that. And it should well be a two-way thing, and I think that's where you should be within 6 months. It shouldn't just be a coach saying to do this, you're nodding and you go for it. Okay, that way then you are literally just being taught, you're not being coached and educated. And that is what we focus on here down in Optilift. Now, that is the end of episode 38. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you've taken away a few nuggets, pockets of information that is going to better you as an athlete, improve your training, and improve the way that you lift. Yeah, and as I said, I've added the link below to the episode 1 of the journey of building a weightlifting community. First thing you can do to be a part of the community is join the Optilift Performance Lab school community. It's totally free. There's loads of different resources in there that are free, that are going to improve your mobility with the mobility manual. We can look at your technique inside the weightlifting toolbox, help you learn the Olympic lifts, stand, the snatch, the clean, and split jerk, and actually then start to overcome common technical faults that we see within those three movements. That is the end of episode 38. If you enjoyed it, if you haven't already, make sure to click subscribe, and I shall see you next week for episode 39. We are nearly at the big 4-0. Goodbye for now.